Thank you both for doing this and being here. It means a lot to not only have like a Valentine's Day series, but also have like a matching or like a parallel Aromantic Awareness Week series.
Yeah.
Um, that means a lot.
How did you meet?
Oh, that's a story. Cynthia and I met online actually. Um, there's a page that doesn't exist anymore, but on Instagram it was called Personals, and it was a text-based dating platform where you put like old school newspaper ads out. And I posted an ad, and Cynthia responded to it, and I thought like, oh, this LA girl is way too cool for me. Like, there's no way like it's gonna be anything serious. And I remember my best friend was just like, it's just for fun. She's all the way in LA anyway. It's not like it's gonna be serious. and
Here we
and
are.
so yeah, here we are. And now they turned that Instagram page into an app, and so now the app is called Lex, for anybody out there who's looking. And it's a queer-based dating app for women identifying folks and non-binary folks. So basically, anybody but cis men. And yeah, we've been able to meet a lot of friends on there as well. It's not just for romantic connection. Cynthia,
Yeah.
is there anything to add?
Yeah, well, my side of the story, I followed personals for probably like a year or so. I was in grad school at the time, and all my friends were on personals, and I wanted to like know what the giggles were about. So I was very curious and found that like these little blurbs were hilarious, and I really enjoyed them. Never really wanted to post anything. I just I assumed that it would be overwhelming, and I just didn't. I don't know. I just didn't think about it. But I did connect. I did want it to connect with more people, and for me, it felt easier to just review like some of the folks that I felt were really interesting and just add them or message them. And some of them responded, and some of them didn't. Cachet was one of them that responded, and I just simply said like, I think you're great. And we became friends at first, and then it quickly became something more romantic. And yeah, it was a great beginning for sure.
Yeah, my favorite part of the story um like remembering one of our first conversations and asking Cynthia like, what are you looking for? And she's like, definitely just friends. And then the other funny part is that I remember thinking like, oh, she's really serious, like, and I'm pretty silly.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's gonna work out like for friends because she might think I'm really annoying. And it was just like, come to find out, Cynthia just like trying to give a really smart impression.
I just wanted to be polite. I didn't want to. I have a reputation of maybe being a little too silly, so I was feeling insecure about that at first. But I'm glad that she gave me like a bunch of chances.
So yeah, that's it in a nutshell.
Mhm.
That's awesome. Thank you. When did you know that you loved one another? And was that a different moment from when you knew you romantically loved one another? Or did they kind of overlap?
Do you want to go first?
Great question. Um, for me, it was pretty early on, but I didn't admit it to her because, again, I was insecure a little bit, and I wanted to sit with those feelings much longer. But pretty early on, I would say, um, like within 14 days, probably.
Mhm.
I'm like, yes, I gotta tell this woman that like I want to be a girlfriend, and that was like parallel to the feeling of I want to tell her I love her. You know.
Yeah, I definitely remember
Actually,
where, oh, sorry, what?
no, I wanted to add quickly, and I'm sure this is part of your story, Cache. My niece was due on January 17th, and that day was the day that I like we both were gonna ask each other anyway, like, do you want to be my girlfriend? so so that was like we had already said I love you before that, but certainly like solidified it with some words.
Yeah, and I remember I was traveling for my job at the time, and I was by myself, like in a hotel room in the middle of like very rural Tennessee, and Cynthia and I were chatting, and um, she was just talking about like how it would be to co-parent because I have a son, and talking about like what our lives might be like if she were to relocate to the East Coast or I relocated to the West Coast, and it just felt like a really beautiful thing to imagine. And I think that's when I was like, yeah, I love her.
Yep.
That's so lovely. Um, what is a beautiful thing you've learned about yourself by virtue of the way your partner reflects your experience back at you?
Oh my God, that's a good question. We talk about this often. You want to go first, Hen?
Let's see. I mean, I think I definitely have imposter syndrome about a lot of things in my life, and particularly around my art practice and just things that I have a hard time giving myself credit for. And Cynthia's a great hype queen, and she really tries to um, help me see myself the way that she sees me. And it doesn't always work, but just the fact that she really makes an effort means so much. And it just reminds me not to be so hard on myself.
There are so many things I learned about myself with Cachet's reaction, and just being an ear really helps. And also just a reminder of things like I'm an eternal optimist, and would you say, Cachet, that you're more of a pessimist than a realist, but sometimes it fluctuates, and it's just the way we cope, and accepting that in one another has really helped our relationship and how we manage conflict, not just between each other, but with other things in life. I mean, the pandemic has really tested so much, being newlyweds and not yet having a honeymoon, and other things too. And it's been really helpful for Cachet to really have the patience to be like, dude, like this is what I'm seeing. Remember, you're an optimist, and I'm this, and so like having that patience really has helped me be more forgiving with myself.
What is one profound aspect of the relationship that you share?
One profound aspect. There's so many.
Yeah, I think like fundamentally, if Cynthia and I were not romantically involved, I think we'd still be like best friends. And so I really love that aspect of our relationship. Like we laugh a lot, we have a lot of fun. Um, and I know my mom, she has like often commented, like, I've never heard you laugh so hard as like I hear you laugh with Cynthia. And so I think we really try to ground our relationship in fun and laughter. And like oftentimes when we're in a conflict with each other or the times are just stressful, we just like realize like we haven't had fun lately. And we just like, I think really try to center that. And in it really, I think is at the core of our love, I would say.
I definitely agree. Our friendship, we started chatting because we wanted friends and we were intrigued by each other. And I think curiosity really leads that way. That's something that I found out quickly about Cachet. And I know this about myself. Like I'm a very curious person, and we both have such similar experiences with like our development, our ways of finding friendships in high school. Like we both had multiple friend groups, and that's really telling of like how diverse our personalities are in many ways. Like we have multiple interests, and sometimes they conflict with each other for folks, and but we don't see them as conflicts. And I think we're open to a lot, and I think that um, attracts us to each other. Um, so we can simply like just hang out and have fun and not really like talk very much and just watch a TV show and just like laugh at kind of the same things. Or we joked early on that we were like twin flames, and I think we are. And other folks see us as like, oh, you two look like sisters or whatever, which is not a compliment in many ways if we're in a relationship, you know what I'm saying? But that was food for thought for me, at least, to um, really be present with like what things were so alike at.
Yeah, and I would just add, like, we're so similar, like uncannily similar in so many ways, and then complete polar opposites in so many ways. And I think at first that was maybe like worrisome, like, oh my gosh, like, are we even compatible? We're so different. But then we like can easily remind ourselves of all the ways that we're so similar. And I think the ways that we're different like really complement each other. Like Cynthia said, like she's really optimistic, I'm really pessimistic. And like my pessimism has really made my life easier and happier because I assume the worst, and then when it doesn't happen, I'm like pleasantly surprised. And Cynthia's optimism has really like enhanced her life because she has a positive outlook on things. And when things don't happen to plan, I think like she takes them in stride. But like she can remind me to be more optimistic, and I remind her like, yeah, it's probably gonna suck, and that's okay.
And it works out, and I've seen it work out. It's like a really good formula to have, and I think for both of us, striking that balance can be a challenge, but also really beautiful.
What is the role and importance of self-love in your lives? And how has this journey been nurtured by virtue of happening alongside one another?
Yeah, I think that's a really big part of our relationship is being able to really follow our own individual journeys with healing and unlearning traumas. And um, there's times where I'm really working on a specific aspect of myself that can sometimes cause conflict in our relationship and vice versa. But like I think navigating that conflict is worth it because we tend to like come out of it feeling better and stronger. And I think, you know, we went into our relationship really being intentional about we want this to be like two whole people and not like
Mhm.
half and half and we make up a whole. And that we really want to have autonomy and independence and maintain our own friendships and our own passions. Um, and we really, I think, been intentional about that. And I think if we weren't, like our relationship wouldn't be as fulfilling.
Yeah, you said it really well. Uh, Coming into the relationship, yeah, we were really focused on um, like acknowledging our different journeys and our different arrivals to certain conflicts or certain celebrations. We come from different backgrounds, but honoring that kind of inherently helps us remember that we're individual people, and we're open to like all the changes that are coming our way. They're going to be super challenging and test a lot of things. Um, but we trust each other and we have a genuine love for each other. I, I'm I'm really proud of that growth. So yeah, Cachet said it best though.
No. No, and I mean there's like we have our own, like I hate to keep saying it, but like we have very similarities in our upbringing and our family dynamics, but then in as similar as they are, they're also very uniquely different. And so there's sometimes where we're sort of comparing notes on our individual healing, and that having that support system is really helpful. We
Yeah.
have, you know, healing that we were doing and are still doing from past relationships that, you know, I had really toxic abusive dynamics and Cynthia's was more like I think subtle underlying issues that maybe, I don't know, am I characterizing that correctly, that
I
came
mean,
to
we talk
light.
about it in a
Yeah.
yeah.
And so, you know, we both have healing to do from past relationships, but it looks so different because the relationships were so different. And like sometimes we'll be talking and I'm like, wow, like you had healthy relationships. I didn't know those are possible. And so it's just like we're doing our individual work, but also it complements each other a lot.
Yeah, I think there are a handful of challenges that we both have lived together that for me really visualize we're like it feels like we're the same person living in alternate universes. Like even with our parents, like we both grew up with single moms. They're both like white in different ways. Like my mom's white Latina, Cashay's mom is like white American, and so like that has really influenced also how we see partnerships, and that's just one end of one story, but that's telling of like how similar our upbringing could be, and how they have influenced our relationship with our gender, with our sexuality, with our sexual orientation, and our general choices in life with friendships and relationships. She must have gone to the dogs, so.
That's okay. We can wait a minute. We're in no rush. It's been really beautiful so far to hear all of your answers.
Sorry, I'm back. I was trying to hush Chewy up.
No worries at all. Can you please describe the significance of marriage in your relationship?
I can go first. Well, I certainly brought that up in our relationship first. I think Cache was thinking about it, but it wasn't something that she brought first. Marriage is complicated for me. I think it's complicated because it's an institution that historically hasn't really seen same-sex marriage as real, and now that it's like legal or whatever, I say it with pride actually. Like it a lot of our predecessors, folks who are still alive but have fought the good fight to have this right. That's really important to me. But there's a lot of flaws with the marriage institution, and it's sometimes very challenging to not always see the good. For legal purposes, I think I want my partner to make that decision for me if I'm ever about to die, and that's the truth for me. I lived it when I was very young with my dad, who suddenly was sick, and my mom had to make that big decision and pull the plug. And I like to believe that my father wanted my mom to do that, right? And it's never going to be an easy decision, but if someone has this prognosis of like near death, like I want my partner to do it. So that's one thing. Maybe that's a lot of TMI, but it's true. But marriage, all in all, I think we define it in our own relationship. I think we would still feel married if we didn't have that legal document. So I'm also not truly afraid of divorce, because I know that I trust Cache in those moments where we may feel like our relationship may not be working out. Like divorce is an option, but yeah, like not having fear about marriage or divorce has really helped both of us make that decision.
Yeah, I think when we met and got married all in the same year, and so for a lot of people, it was like, oh my gosh, you all are moving so fast. Like, what are you doing? Like, what if you get divorced? And we were just like, well, reality, like more than half of folks get divorced, whether they wait a week or 8 years. And so we really were like, divorce is always an option, and that's not really a source of fear for us. And we, I didn't really like grow up wanting to be married, but knowing of Cynthia's experience with her dad and like wanting the legal protections that came along with it, that was like, I think our main motivation. Like wedding planning was not a joy for us.
At the beginning, it was a joy, but then drama ensued.
And so we had a really small wedding with like 18, 20 people. in the mountains of North Carolina. And, you know, it was a great day, but we look back, we're like, we should have just gone to the courthouse.
Yes, we should have just freaking gone on vacation. But I don't want it to, like, for our family who's listening and our friends listening, you know, gotta keep that real. Like, it's still, I think they could both live like that, those feelings of regret, but also those feelings of happiness, because I got to see my mom and my sister, and I got to see my friends that I haven't seen because I had just moved to North Carolina and all that. So it was like a great reunion. I got to meet Cachet's family from Wisconsin, and it was we had a lot of fun at the end, and great memories, great pictures that we use often for a profile pic. Um, but I think what really was painful was just like friend breakups, and like I wish that that didn't have to happen. But people have different definitions of marriage and apply a different level, a degree of importance to marriage, and I respect that too. But ultimately, it was our wedding, and we have a certain perspective on marriage and divorce, and I think we really wish that folks could see that. So that's our spiel about marriage.
How do you uplift one another?
All right, I'm definitely going to start this. So knowing that I'm an optimist, honey, the question was, how do we uplift one another? And we have so much fun doing that because we're each other's hype queens for sure. Do you all watch Broad City by chance? Or know Broad City? All right. So it's on Hulu. It takes place in New York, and it's two best friends, Abby and Alana. And in many ways, like we recognize that, like I'm Alana and she's Abby, and Alana is like infamously the hype queen of the friend group, and I'm usually like very physically like active or dancing, and if she's feeling kind of sad, like I like to be like, look, this is what we're gonna do, we're gonna move forward. And maybe it's like the Gemini in me, like in my natal chart, like moving forward is something that I just naturally do, and sometimes I don't realize it, but I think that has allowed me to really embody this like hype queen aesthetic, and just like, let's do this, we got this. I'll be silly, or I'll like make like different voices. I don't know, what do I do, hun, lately that like that's really lifted up your spirits?
Well, I mean, like, you want me to give specific examples? They might be embarrassing.
I'm okay with that.
So like her new thing that I really love is she pretends she's on RuPaul's Drag Race and is
Oh
lip
yeah.
syncing for her life. So she will like put a towel on her head and come out like her wig is all fabulous, and it really cheers me up. And yeah, I think we both like struggle with mental health, and when we're spiraling and it's like a really dark place it's hard to get out of, like usually we're not both spiraling at the same time, so it works out, and we can sort of help pull each other out of the spiral. And like even just saying that to each other, like, hon, I think you're spiraling right now, like helps pull us out of it. And that's really, really helpful, because when you're in that space it can be hard to see that you're in it.
Yeah, yeah. And we also gift each other things. I mean, the material things are, I think I can speak for both of us, are not like the most important thing in our lives, but it does cheer us up. And when we're stuck at home, quarantined and stuff, like, objects are just delightful. Or like Cachet has a great taste, has a great taste in movies. And she will do like a bunch of research on this movie. And according to like the movies that I love, like she uses that as a measurement to like really hype me up and say like, you're gonna love this movie, trust, like let's watch it. Or TV shows. And so I know that's a great sense of pride for Cachet, and I really love it. So
Yeah, I definitely, thankfully so, like have a lot of control over our viewing habits. And Cynthia sort of like trusts me with that, and I take a lot of pride in that.
And I'm an indecisive person when it comes to what I want to watch, and sometimes like I can't really pinpoint what I'm feeling right now because I'm full of feelings sometimes, and I just want to watch something that like will satisfy these feelings. And RuPaul has been like the total, it hits, I'm telling you.
Love, the reception of love, and gifting love can take many different forms. In your experience, what have you gained in your relationship from appreciating all forms of love in your relationship? And do you see romantic love as the primary form of love in your relationship?
Yeah, I
You want
can
to answer
start.
this one, then?
Sure. I think we have realized like early on that sort of the love languages that we give and the love languages that we want to receive like vary greatly. And so like Cynthia, for example, really loves physical touch, um and I'm not so much. And so like early on when we were getting to know each other, that was sort of like how she gave love. And then I'm like, oh. And now like we're in a really happy balance where like I enjoy like physical touch, and she knows like the moderation to give it to me, and like the quality time that we spend together. And like Cynthia said, like gifts are not like the material like value of them is not really important. Like it's really the thoughtfulness that we both I think appreciate. And I would say that we definitely value like romance and romantic love, but for us, I think we really put a huge value on platonic love and friendship, and that's like at the core of our relationship. And we also like deeply love our friends, and so that is like not a source of conflict for us. I think it's we both like celebrate having a community that we love a lot. I don't know if that made any sense, but
Yeah, that made total sense. Yeah, our love languages. I think that was a conversation that really blew my mind because I knew what love languages were. I wasn't so present with it. I was just like, this is just how I express my love. Like, if you don't accept it, then like whatever. But that's also unfair. I think that moment when we had that conversation, I'm just like, wow, yes, acts of service are certainly something that we both value and see as equal to saying I love you. Physical touch too, I had to step back and really analyze. I felt like I needed to analyze like why physical touch is so important to me. And I think it has to do more with just being in a romantic relationship. And that allowed me to be more present with that desire, of wanting physical touch. And it's not like Cachet is not open to it at all. It's just it's just different, and that's super okay. And I realized that that's super okay, luckily early on, because I found it important to really like question like, okay, physical touch, you can still love somebody and cannot be physically like touchy all the time. And so it's allowed me to really like address it for myself.
Family can mean many things. What does the family you have created mean to you?
I love that question. I can go first. Queer family or chosen family has been really important for me in my life. It's helped me challenge myself in my there's a good word for this, but to put it in like a phrase, blood family isn't always the best family sometimes, and they can show you certainly like negative things about what family could be like. And so finding community basically, and folks who are willing to love you in your form, in your growing form, has allowed me to forgive a lot of what like my blood family has done to me, and also honor like all the beautiful things that my blood family has given me too. So again, it's like constantly striking this balance of just like, it's okay to see family and other folks that are not blood relatives. And honestly, that's opened like so many doors for me, in terms of feeling just loved and not alone in those moments where you just feel like no one loves you. There's always that one person that like can tell you with pure honesty, like, I really do actually love you, as in see you as family. So that's been like the short story of my relationship with queer family. And also with my, this is my new family. It's like not really new anymore, but like this is my family, and my immediate family. And it's a dream come true.
Yeah, I think we really value our chosen family, and it means a lot to us. We're really protective over our like little family unit that we live with day in and day out. I think we love giving our son like a lot of love and attention, and if we have conflict within our family, we really try to address it all together. And so I think we have accepted that like families are not always pretty, and there's like going to be messy moments, but that we can get through them together.
Yeah.
Oh gosh. How has your partnership respected and supported your individual relationships to autonomy?
You want to get this one, huh?
Sure. I think a lot of times Cynthia is like my thought partner around things that I want to explore on my own, or things that I'm thinking about doing, or things that I'm struggling with. And like we definitely have our sort of aspects of our lives that are separate from one another. Like for example, one of my passions is fat liberation and fat activism, and that's like a space where Cynthia is super supportive, but like isn't actively engaged with me. And Cynthia has some of her like art spaces and art collaboratives that she's invested in that are sort of separate from me, but like they really enrich our relationship, because especially in a pandemic, we're together all day long a lot of the times. And when we have our separate stuff, it gives us a lot to talk about and to come back and like think through, reflect on, like, oh, this happened in this meeting, like, what do you think? Like, and so we really like unpack things with one another on a pretty regular basis. And I think it gives us more confidence when we're like out in the world as individuals, because I've already been able to like process it with Cynthia. What would you say?
This question sounded a lot like a previous question. I think honoring our autonomy professionally has really shed light on how we can like honor our autonomy in other spheres of our life. Cachet said it best again. I think I've spent a lot of time with the arts and trying to committing to a discipline has been the most challenging thing, and applying the discipline that I learned in admissions, for example, and applying the discipline that I've learned in actually like actual paying jobs, because the art don't pay that much, and applying that in some way to, or translating that into my art practice, which is like something that I'm like one of the most passionate about. And debriefing with Cachet, because she's also an artist too, and translating, it's constant translating of like, how can we apply this framework that has really worked for Cynthia into like Cachet's work, or how can I apply something that's really worked for Cachet to something that I'm working on. So I think that translation and that just like support is simple but so powerful.
I heard a quote ages ago, which has stuck with me, paraphrased as, I want someone to, hold on, let me scroll. Okay, I heard a quote ages ago, which has stuck with me, paraphrased as, I want someone to love me with me. Does this sentiment hold any significance to either of you?
I want someone to love me with me.
That's really interesting. I think it does and it doesn't, because I think we both struggle with moments where we don't love ourselves. And I don't think it's true that you have to love yourself in order for someone else to love you, because sometimes we spend our whole lives unpacking our stuff, and we may be like, not ever get to that point of fully loving ourselves, but that doesn't mean that we don't deserve love. So I think there's definitely moments where Cynthia like loves me enough for the both of us and vice versa. So I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, RuPaul has this famous saying, if you don't love yourself, how the hell are you gonna love somebody else? And I get where RuPaul's coming from, uh, especially in the field that she's in, that he's in. Drag queens, I'm sure they get a lot of flack, right? And within the queer community, if we're in the wrong space, that where we are not seen as who we are, or whatever, some people form a really thick skin around criticism, and many people may not love them at that moment. For a long time, I did believe that, but I I think just because sometimes we don't love ourselves doesn't mean we're not worthy. And a lot of the times where I was able to love myself, I had the example of others loving me. And without me even doing much, just existing. And that really was super valuable for me, and it continues to be. Sometimes we just get lost in ourselves and don't make time, or don't see that we can make time to love ourselves. So I don't think it's completely false, but I don't think it applies to everything.
We're down to the last three questions. And then both of you are able to like say anything else if you feel like you need to add anything or change anything.
Mm-hmm.
Can you please speak to the power of vulnerability and human intimacy?
Yeah, I think vulnerability and intimacy are critical to like all aspects of our relationship. I think if we weren't able to be vulnerable with one another, it would be really hard to navigate conflicts or understand each other. And I think we've also learned in our relationship that intimacy can take on a lot of different forms, and to value it in all the different many ways that it can be expressed. And so I think people have sometimes narrow views of what intimacy is. And Cynthia and I have been able to be intentional, like us laying in bed, both reading a book, like our own book, like still feels really intimate. And that is just as valuable as sort of the other sort of conventional ways that people view intimacy.
Yeah.
Did you add something?
Yeah, I love the way you put that. Because when we're reading a book, and typically the books that we read are books that we like love dearly. Now that we're not in school, like we have the freedom to choose whatever we want to read. And so that alone allows the individual to enter this like space that not everyone is invited to, and a space that we only visit in our brains, right? And that's already like a vulnerable place. We may not see it, and I think when that vulnerability is shed into the light and has the attention of others that aren't always in that space and don't sit in that same couch in that space, for example, you know what I mean? Like we don't have the same comforts. It could be uncomfortable, and in that space of discomfort, I think fosters a lot of creativity, or a lot of creative ways to really, take, that person's hand, and you get a personal tour of that vulnerable space. That's how I think about it when when I've shared my art with Cachet, like I don't share a lot of like what art making really is for me to the public. And I think because of trauma, because of insecurity, because of what have you, like it's just an uncomfortable feeling to share it a lot. And with Cachet, I really feel like I was able to, and with other friends too, but Cachet in particular, like I literally see it as taking her hand and walking her through what I see and try to explain it as best as possible with words, because sometimes words don't do it justice. So I think that's the best visual I can give. It's a bit long-winded, but it's who I am.
Did you have any models of how you wanted your life or relationship to look like when you were growing up?
You know, I don't think I did really. My mom was a single mom, as Cynthia mentioned, and I grew up with my mom and my grandma. And I think that was probably one of the key challenges in past relationships and in early part of Cynthia and I's relationships is that when you don't have a role model, like you can look to TV or movies or books, and like it's not a realistic portrayal of what a relationship is really like. And so I think we've been able to sort of evolve and make it our own, knowing that, you know, our relationship is unlike any other, and that's okay. And you know, people sort of will give you prescriptions of like a healthy relationship looks like this, and this. And if we don't like check all of those boxes but still feel really happy, that's okay.
Yeah, I can't say that I have one person that I looked up to and wanted my relationships to reflect theirs, but I did identify certain power in people or certain things that I like was very curious about and wondered if that works for me, because in some way or another a feeling arose where I was just like, well, maybe that does work for me. It's attractive. I love how folks in academia express themselves. And for a long time, I thought I was just going to be that way. But what that moment doesn't allow you to do is really see the future for what it's going to be. Because we don't know what's going to happen like tomorrow, right? That's true. We can have a really good idea for sure, but I think that has allowed me to not want to like replicate someone else's life into mine. I think experience has really allowed me to conclude that. Yeah, there's just so many different factors and different ways we like arrive to things, and we may not have the same understanding of of friendship that we had in like third grade to one in middle school to one in high school, then college, and then grad school, and then beyond. So honoring that things are going to change has really helped me face the challenges.
We have one last question.
Okay.
We can wait for Cashay to get back, though.
Okay.
We're no rush.
The puppers.
I have a question written, but I think I'm gonna change it just based on like what you both have been saying. I was gonna ask, kind of similar to the last interview, like if you could say or ask one thing of your community, what would it be? But especially because you both kind of spoke to how there weren't many like models of what like your future and your relationship would look like. Like if you could say like one thing of thanks to your community or your families or your friends or the people that kind of supported you, like what thing of thanks would you say?
You want to go first?
Yes, there's so many things, but the first thing that comes to mind is patience. I really feel a deep sense of gratitude for folks in my life who like really love me and have patience for me, because I'm not always the most consistent person in terms of like being physically there. But I try my best, and I know that like my bestest friends and family who really see me and just accept me and my flaws, that they know like we can spend years not chatting with each other, and then like we can meet up again, and it feels like it was when we last saw each other. And that's something that I like deeply desire all the time, because I can't always be there for other folks. Like I have my life to live, you know, and I really wish that like other family members I adore and love like could see that too. And but I also understand like dwelling in that wish and that desire isn't always helpful, because it's like it's dreadful for me. And but anyways, like a deep thank you to my family and friends who love me in this unconditional way that is seen through patience.
Yeah, that resonates with me as well. I would add, I have made like a lot of what would be seemingly wild decisions in my life. And I really appreciate those people who have like trusted me, that I know like what path I need to be on, and trusted, that I knew um, what I needed for myself and for my relationships. And and my decisions like didn't always work out, but my family and friends who really love me like didn't say like, well, I told you like that was a bad idea. Like they were still there for me even if things didn't go the way that I planned. And I think that was really reflected like in when I met Cynthia, and there were friends who were like, what are you doing, like you all are moving so fast. And then other friends who are just like, well, like you know best like what you want. And I really appreciated and valued that. And so I think just like a deep thanks for people who trust me, and when I do mess up are still there, and who like root and cheer for Cynthia and I. Relationships are not easy, like marriage is not easy. And like I think Cynthia and I both always wanted to be transparent that like as much as we love each other, there's challenging times, and our community like really helps get us through those times.
Yes.
So that was the last question. If either of you want to take a couple minutes, and if there's anything that you feel you need to add, or if there's something that you said that's kind of sticking with you that it didn't come out like you wanted it to, or you have this space. And then I'm really sorry, after that I have to very quickly wrap up and run to class.
Yeah, no, I know you have to head out. There's nothing for me. I just think these are really thoughtful and insightful questions, and I really appreciate you all putting them together. And it was great to just like reflect with Cynthia and you all. It was like a nice time to revisit our relationship in this way. So thank you all.
Yeah, I wanted to say yes, Valentine's Day is a capitalist holiday. However, it's still here, and like as much as we want to like avoid the capitalism, like it's still here, and it still reminds us of like maybe if you're single and you just feel down about being single, maybe this is a chance for you to maybe love the fact that you're single, and maybe there's a reason for it, or to not dwell in like what you lack, but dwell in what you are have in abundance that you have of love, of friendship. Maybe this could be that moment and a good reminder. Or if you want to just ignore this day, that's also valid as well. But I think ultimately just question everything, everything, and just make sure that you are growing your support system. And you don't have to love yourself now, but love is real.
Yeah. Can I maybe do something like really fun real quick?
Yeah.
So Cynthia has a big surprise coming her way for Valentine's Day that she has no idea what it is, and it's driving her nuts. So I want to tell Jamie and Isabel privately in the chat, and then you can see their reaction, Cynthia. um,
What the heck?
I love this.
It's driving me nuts. I thought it was number one, a flight to Los Angeles in the middle of California.
Okay,
Uh,
so I'm sending it now.
or my friends coming over. Or
So Cynthia, watch. You missed
an
the reaction.
appointment to an appointment an appointment to the psychic. What
Oh
is it?
So I just wanted to wrap up with that.
So sweet.
Yeah.
Right? She's gonna love it, but she has no idea what it is.
I'm so excited for you, Cynthia.
What is it? Even the dogs know, and I have no clue.
All right, thank you all so much.
Thank you so
Thank you.
much.
See ya.
Bye.